You sure you don't need a couple more minutes?
All
All
right, I would like to call this basically a workshop, and we will move to board business later about 7 o'clock, but right now we will simply use this as a workshop for budget discussion. So it is 6:05, and I will open this workshop. All of you are aware that you received in the email today the new budget outline draft, and you also have one in front of you, a copy in front of you. Changes that were suggested last time, and also in the interim time as well, are in the yellow. And what we had prior to that, which has not changed, is still in green.
Yes, sir.
We'll take a look first of all at the general, and then we'll move to the sewer. I believe that there was a slight change made in the county sales tax that has gone, I think it was from 1,360,000, is that correct, to 1,370,000?
Correct.
Based on projections that we have had from the first few quarters this year, and the sales tax has been greater this year than it was last, and so we anticipate that it possibly will be again. I don't know if anybody saw, well, you did not. The only people I sent it to were Heather and to Christina. I received an email today. Adam Bello, is that his name?
Yep.
The county comptroller?
Clerk.
Clerk.
Yeah, clerk.
Excuse me, clerk, has discovered a gross error in the calculations for mortgage tax. And the city of Rochester has claimed since 2016 almost $1 million of sales tax that the county, mortgage tax that should have gone to county. The addresses were improperly listed as, I believe, being in the city of Rochester, so they were collected. So they are making corrections, and at the present time, there is an allocation to Webster of $75,000.
Nice.
However, that is inclusive of the town and the village. And any municipality that is a village within the town, they are still working out a formula, or I don't know if it's a formula, but they're still working out how much will go to the village and the rest of the town. So we will be getting something from that, and that is good news in terms of revenue.
Good.
Keeps falling.
It keeps moving.
See if it tightens.
It'll cover Will's day.
It'll cover most. So anyways, that's something that will be added hopefully in a short while.
Great.
So that's good news. So again, we have a change here in terms of revenue of $1 million or $10,000, I guess. Currently. If you move to page 2, there is on page 2 also a couple of things here. Interest on sewer loan and repayment of sewer loan. This is certainly at this particular point tentative, but it is from the auditor that because the general fund has loaned to the sewer fund an amount of money that was not in fact paid back within a year, there needs to be interest charged on that loan, if you call it that, a short-term loan. And so we have included here interest on that sewer loan coming in. And I think we may need board approval for that, but The interest that we're looking at right now is a very small amount of interest. But we do need to have that as revenue, okay? So that's going to be coming in, and as we look later at the sewer budget, that 20,000 will be the minimum that we'll be paying back against the loan from the general fund.
Haven't had technical difficulties.
The other change that you can note that's in yellow is down at the bottom. It was not in the previous draft, but it is here, a transfer from equipment reserve of $105,447. That is the equipment reserve for vehicle equipment, and we have currently in there $174,000 in that reserve, and this would help to offset some of the vehicles that are being proposed.
That amount actually has
Is that
to be
correct?
lower.
Pardon?
That amount actually has to be lower because current balance in that account is 174. 80,000 is slated for the chipper. Is that the right name for the equipment? Jake?
Would be the chipper and the leaf pad were the 80.
So the 80 covers both of those?
Yes.
So that's slated for this current fiscal year. So that leaves 94. So we really can't take more than 90 from this account for the new
So the
budget.
chipper, that is in this year,
Yes,
correct?
yes. So that will have to change to 90.
We had a,
So under, Jake, that you had a note under shade tree equipment on something that you provided. Chipper 52K, vac 43K, vac box. 6K will be more than the 80. Together, roll the balance of 28,000 into a new year and add 21 for the vac and box purchase in the new budget. So that was $21,000 on line 8560.200. That was a previous note that you had in the spreadsheet that you provided. Can you explain then how that's going to be working this year and next year?
hopefully. Let me, I've slept since then, so I gotta look back and see. That was the 5112-200 line is the equipment. And then we have vehicles at 5112-204. I believe we have, I'm just trying to look back at this line now, actually, they amended the vehicle. So that was spent, but we have the 80 in the other. We were talking about getting one piece of equipment this year, and the balance in that 80 would not be enough to get the second piece. So try to retain the balance somehow, or, send it back at the end of the year, but then have enough in next year to get that second, the leaf back, out of, next year's budget, so the true impact there'd be about 28 balance. If I look at, you said it was 81, I'm trying to look at the new numbers here, 8150, or excuse me, 8560, right?
8560, 200, you had listed under shade tree equipment, $21,000. And it says as a note, chipper 52K, vac 43K, box 6, will be more than the 80K together, which is true. It'll be basically a little over 100,000. So roll the balance of 28K into the new year, and then add an additional 21K for the vac box purchase in the new budget.
Yes. And that's the,
So we have already budgeted in this year.
yes,
How much?
we've already budgeted $80,000 this year. The intent was to get a new wood chipper and a leaf vac in a box, a
Right.
collection box with leaf vac. All those added up to more than the 80,000.
Correct.
I do have a little adjustment today after we went out and saw the gas model of the chipper. I think we're gonna end up being able to drop that chipper cost by about 15 grand. So if that's the case, then we'd be looking for, a smaller number there, maybe 10,000 instead of 21.
Okay.
So should I go ahead and make that change or not yet?
We're gonna look at one more tomorrow, so I wanna double check and see that we're gonna compare that to one of the diesel ones.
So then, Chris, how does this impact then that 105,000, or how does that impact the 105,000?
I believe what Chris said,
For
is
next
100
year, looking for next year.
yeah, I think she said there's 170,
It says 174.
174 in this, in the equipment reserve.
Right?
I didn't realize, I don't know, somewhere in here, I'm sure there's some transfer from the equipment reserves into the general as a revenue line that would make up that 80,000, so.
That was in last year's budget.
Yeah, the current budget we're in right now.
Right, that was a revenue line in last year's budget.
Yes, so I just don't know where it is, but it's in
The
there.
bottom of the second, it's on the second page midway through, transfer from equipment reserve, we have 105 on there. That's going to, that's the new fiscal year that's coming up.
Mhm.
The 105 really has to be no more than 90 if we take 80 from it this fiscal year.
But we did have 80 planned to come from it this year, because I
Yes.
didn't see it
Yeah,
in the budget for the revenue.
oh, I see what you're saying, no, yeah, it didn't come over. I didn't list it on here.
Okay. So, yeah, so.
So there should be something here for that line in the 2018-19,
Yes,
in which there isn't anything.
no, my
That
bad,
would have been 80.
yep.
Okay.
Which just about takes care of what the difference was.
So
Not
that
entirely.
is 80. And so this number is going to become less, correct? Transfer from the equipment reserve, which will have to make a change on.
What about the office supply line? I think that's a little low. Low? Yeah.
I did an analysis of that line, and standard costs are $2,600. Currently, we've already spent $4,073 in that line. The items that come out, our Toshiba copies are $1,100. The paper for the office, being conservative, is about $300. Our Prime membership's $118, which has to be paid because all the items that we buy from Amazon, not only for us, DPW and STP, it's all free, don't have to pay for shipping, so that's huge. The newspaper for the office is $330, Easy Pass is included in there for $525. Christmas cards are $80, BJ's membership's $145, so all that totals about $2,600. So to have it only at $4, I would say that was a little low. Because the other expenses, I mean, we've already surpassed we had $3,600 in there last year, and we've already well surpassed that.
Yeah, but you also want to be realistic. You know,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
it just stands out.
relate to you, that's all.
Last year we only spent 3,600.
Didn't need,
But also remember that that line also includes Easy Pass. So really, 4,000 minus 500, so it's really, we only asked for, that 4,000 would have to include, so it's really 3,500 for office supplies that you're giving us. And that's only $900 for other items that would be purchased for the office.
Is Easy Pass something that is a standard per year?
Yes. But we also remember that it's expensed in this line, but it's revenue on the top end under minor sales, because we sell those.
I'm just wondering, do we sell them all? So do we
Just
have
about.
a standard amount that we buy every year?
You can't buy less. 520, it's 25 passes, I believe. We don't usually sell more than that.
How many passes?
25.
Why do we need that many?
That's the
That's
least you
the
can buy.
least amount you can buy, it comes.
It comes in a box
Really?
from New York
Yeah, they-
Department of
You
Transportation.
can't buy half the box. It's just the way pictures. You know what I mean? Sort of like when you buy a box of fruit snacks with 12 pouches, you can't get one with 6.
I wonder how much we got hurt by
Or 6
the
pack
town
beer
going
with
to
3 cans.
ES.
I've gone back up.
Unless you make your own Wegmans.
Well, you wanna go up to 45?
I just jumped out, I mean, I think it may make sense. Yeah. Not that we wanna go up, but let's try and spin it.
Yeah. I agree with that.
That's why you guys come up with the difference with the tire.
Right.
And if not, yeah, you can cover the difference.
You guys are your pensions.
Thank you. Social Security is right
Thank
for
you.
this.
Oh, yeah.
Keep working.
Jake, that equipment sales, that first line up there, 93,000.
Mhm.
Refresh my memory on that. You're selling some, is that what vehicles or?
Yeah, that's if,
That's not right here.
Page 2.
yeah, no, I'm just looking at a breakdown here. That's calculating, sales of the loader, for DPW, or the general fund, the loader, a mower, the gator, excuse me, and W15, W1, and W2. W1 and W2 are, it's one's a pickup truck, one's a platform truck that are about 3 years old, and that's part of that vehicle rotation. Looking, everything, indication we have now is if we get about 29,000 for those, which is. you know,
Each are pairing.
Each, which is about what we paid for them, maybe just a fuzz less, probably within $1,000 what we paid for them.
Pretty good.
And then we'll have new vehicles again without, no maintenance costs, we're basically putting gas in.
It's almost 60 grand
That's for those two
for
vehicles.
those two, and then the loader and the mower.
Yeah, the loader and the mower, and our idea with the loader was, loader's about a $180,000 piece of equipment. And without the composting, we needed that more year-round for turning the leaves and things. When we use it in the parking lot here, we can just go about 16 grand a year for a 5-month rental, and then have zero maintenance costs.
So what do you think, it's worth 180, so you think about half of that?
Oh, no, that one's a 94, I think
Ah.
Fred Flintstone drilled this one, so.
So it's real old.
530 Anderson.
I mean, if you're interested in buying it and you're watching, it's a very nice piece of equipment, but I've got about 20 grand is figuring what we are selling that.
Okay.
You know, it's an old, we did work on the transmission in all seriousness, we worked on your kind of replacement transmission a few years ago. It's not a bad piece of equipment, but it's tired and it's about to cost us even more. And when you look at the cost of either leasing one or different options that you have, the school district does is they rent one for the 5 months during the 5 winter months, and there's no maintenance cost. You know, you have fixed costs. I'm sure Chris will love it if we know what it's gonna cost us every year. It's probably way better than, hey, having this and not knowing if we're gonna have to put a $20,000 transmission in it or not, or, so, that's our idea on that one, is to try to get things more fixed so we know exactly what they are without, making these things.
Makes sense.
Yep.
I would like to also bring to your attention, the actual column has been updated from the last time you received a budget. Those numbers in there are now current as of today's date, which includes also the fact that we were transitioning to the new accounting program. So all those numbers are current as of now.
Jake, I'm talking about 16, 20, 200.
You said 1622 one?
Yep.
Okay, that's buildings.
Page 3, middle part. It's in yellow, 50.
Yeah, I'm just going, I have my notes on this one that I wasn't able to,
Yeah, I got a question mark there.
I apologize.
You want mine?
No, I've got it big here, but I printed out, this one's got my notes and explanations here. 1622 village, yes, this year we shifted from the roof to the generator, and we're still working out the generator, potential on that one too. So we had figured about 50,000 for a roof, generator should be about 25-ish, but we're working out what we can do with that generator. There was initial thought of even rooftop mounting the generator, but I think the way our building is, that would not be a good option. So we're even contemplating splitting the load. We can either run everything, which is, you have to get a bigger generator, but it's a cheaper install, and because you're just doing a main transfer switch, and you're not bringing or just bringing bits and pieces over. We also looked at the potential for doing a generator here outside to handle this portion of the complex, if you will, our buildings, and then the main generator out towards the front that's gonna handle the village hall and the garage and things like that, so. We're still, these are estimates that we have.
So you got it done, just the basics and full?
We've got it done a few different ways. We looked at, we have a liquid cooled one now, we talked about doing an air cooled one that we could then, put up on the roof. I think the vibration and our building age and design, by the time you get an engineer to be able to rooftop mount it.
Yeah, better.
And we're right on the verge of like a 22, 25K up to 36. I think it's the next jump for the other ones. That puts us into a liquid cooled one. So we talked about putting that back down at the ground. It's a larger one. The corner's a little tight where we are because of the gas lines and everything. So we're going back and forth and then seeing if we could do a smaller, simpler one up front and a split unit here. So we're working with the electrician and trying to get an idea of what we can do on those. So, and then we should have, if we do the generator this year, we should have about $20,000 left from this year, not including doors. This budget, next budget, we're looking to see if we could have the roof of 55,000, and it was an additional 1,500 is upgrade this drinking fountain in this room here, in the meeting room, in the meeting hall there. About there, 1,500.
Well, no, what we were talking about was installing the one in here. That was what unless someone had the information wrong, but someone told us Jay was installing a drinking fountain in here. You were not here, we couldn't believe it.
Oh, no, there's one in the hallway there.
Yeah, no, we know that, but
Yeah.
it was said to us that you were installing one in here, and we like, no, we're nixing that, we don't need a drinking fountain in the conference room.
No.
Well, conference room hallway, it's the same difference to me, that's why I said it.
Yeah.
Well, it's in here and out there, to me, it's two different.
Okay.
Why are we upgrading?
We're looking at getting a more efficient unit. That one's got cooling on and it runs, so we're looking at getting an upgraded unit that's gonna run more efficient, be newer, plus it's gonna have the bottle fill thing on that, just like the one down in the break room we got. So you can fill water bottles and things. It's nothing we have to do, but it's just part of trying to bring back, lower what we're using on electricity. That's something you get that continues to pay.
Yeah.
So, but
You can put one downstairs though.
Huh? Yeah. Question is if you wanted, if you didn't need a drink, you can get rid of it, cap it off. Yeah, just leave it for now, because it may not be used.
So are we moving that up to 56.5, or is it staying
No.
at 50?
Staying.
Leave it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm on 3. Right.
We talked about water last time, a little bit.
Good.
1624,
And,
wasn't that at 3,000?
was.
We changed it to 2,000. Yeah, that's good.
The increase, I calculated for a million gallons, the
Yeah.
increase of like $200 some dollars. I thought, and even as we talked about water usage, watering plants, et cetera, we talked about possibly every other day as opposed to.
Plants on every other pole.
Save us some money.
Jerry mentioned plants on every other pole instead of every pole.
Well, that'll come a little later in the planting, but yeah.
But money.
Well, I guess that's, some of that's gonna be this year's budget, and it's gonna, you know, obviously, that's a projection, something we have to guess. We don't know exactly what the weather's gonna be like and what it's gonna do. Typically, especially the hanging baskets dry out very quick because they're exposed on all sides to the wind, especially ones on the north side of East Main Street aren't shaded by the buildings, so they do get a lot of.
Brian, I don't know how, at the end of the day, how much true water savings it is, but I'll tell you, all the locations I manage, my own personal house, I never water them every single day, as long as you do it every other day.
Yeah.
But like you said, at the end of the day, is that worth, I don't know.
Well, I think because they're on, you know, they're all basically on asphalt or on concrete. There's not, you don't have the ground around them, and they're exposed. I mean, hanging baskets are gonna be the same in your yard as that, but they're gonna get more reflective heat, I think, and dry out a little faster, especially down Main Street with the wind. So, I mean, it's up to you guys. It's a big investment in plants. I'd hate to invest in plants and save $200 on water and kill
Well, that's
$10,000 worth of
That's why I
plants.
said, I don't know what the true
Yeah,
savings
though,
are.
traditionally, look at it, it's 114, it's 1,000, you know, so, I don't see that we can't do it, so.
What is that tank called that goes along behind them for the water?
That's a 350-gallon tank, that's part of some of the stuff that we're trying to do with some of this equipment. Say it's a 300-gallon tank. You're talking about 2,400 pounds of water totaled by an 800-pound machine. It's not a real good combination, so, especially for the brakes in the machine. That's what we've had, what we've used. I'm not a big fan of the setup. The machine's getting very tired, as you would expect, especially the brakes. So that's one of the things we're looking at with that Kubota that we had talked about before, getting something they can either tow behind is a little beefier, that you can still tow behind. We've talked about, you know, using one of the vehicles that we can do that. I guess it's just very tight, especially when we're watering along during the day. You know, Main Street gets busy, sometimes you gotta get up on the sidewalk too, and that's nice about the Gator and the Kubota will fit on the sidewalk in areas where you need to. And not have you blocking traffic and keep you out of the flow. So we're looking at different ways to do that, where we can, you know, keep everybody safe, obviously, get the plants watered, and stay out of the way. So it's a tough balance to find all three sometimes, but we definitely have to do something. It's a big round tank with no baffles in it, that, you know, like I said, you figure 8 pounds a gallon, you got 2,400 pounds you're towing behind there.
Yeah.
It's, I think we're fortunate that we're still upright on it, so.
I had a question on page 4, it's probably for you, Jake. CHIPS personnel,
That's everybody's home department for the highway.
yeah, because I see 185, 190, now we're only up to 136, now we're budgeting for 190, 198,000. I mean, can we knock that down a little bit, or
Nope,
Yeah,
what?
same explanation I gave last week about snow. You have a pool of money, okay? We're taking that pool of money from last year's budget, we're upping it 4%. So we're not upping payroll except for the percentage of amount they're being paid. Divided up by all the departments we have. So if you reduce CHIPS, you're gonna have to increase another line. Because per the contract, they have to get their raise. So you can't reduce their payroll. And the total payroll for all the guys is literally divided up between all the departments.
everywhere you see, this add on what Chris is saying, everywhere you see where there's a 100 line, imagine those are all a pie. And so if you make this piece of pie smaller, you're making another piece bigger. You know, it's depending on how you're cutting it up. But they all make the whole, they all contribute to the whole, so. And that also includes, all these lines also include the overtime hours. There's not a separate line for overtime. That's all inclusive. And CHIPS is a funny one, that's their home department. So if someone's on vacation, if they're using PTO, that's where that time goes against, is that CHIPS line. That's their home, the catch-all, so.
We talked about changing the streetlights to LED, hoping that there would be a savings last year.
Yeah, we did.
But it's not a very big percentage, though, is it?
No, we have about 400 and, I think there's 422 Cobra heads, and we have 104 of the post op lights. Some of those are energy only, some of, the ones on, Fuller, Dunning, and Lapham, all on the side streets are all energy only. The ones on Main Street, we own the pole, RG&E owns the wires and the light at the top, and then the Cobra heads, they own the entire system. So when we were talking about reducing energy, we're reducing the energy on, the energy only ones that we changed already. And it's, a relatively small portion of what our overall, we're $95,000 a year for streetlights, and those streetlights, we just looked at some of these bills too, they were about I want to say about $200 a month or so for the ones that are energy only, $200 or $250. So even if we were split it in half, you're talking about a $125 drop. And I think we did split some more than that with with switching over to LEDs. Now we have 104 36 watt LEDs. We did add, as part of that North Ave project, we added 26 53 watt LEDs. At the same time, we reduced some of the Cobra heads that were there, some of the 150s, 250s, and 400 watt Cobra heads. So we should see a little better, that North Avenue portion. I think we ultimately ended up with a little less wattage or kilowatt hours that we're going to have every year. But the ones that we switched already, there is a savings. And you keep in mind too, that we received, I think it was about 3,200, 31 or 3,200 for the conversion that we did on the rest of the streetlights that we owned, with the exception of Fuller, because Fuller we did as a separate test last year, and I think that one cost us about $900. We had 9 lights. I think it was $950 or so, and we got $450 back from the NYSERDA or from the rebates. And we did the same thing with the remaining lights. So we
Wasn't
had
it
that.
5?
What's that?
Wasn't it 5? The clean energy grant?
No, Clean Energy Grant was something else. It was
Okay.
just, hey, we got these items for the 10 high impact action items. But the NYSERDA grant itself, I don't know if we've received it yet, but we should be. I thought it was 31 or 3,200 that we're
No, the most recent one?
getting. Yeah.
No, we filed the paperwork about 2 months ago, and we haven't received the
Okay.
funds yet.
Yeah, because we were waiting for the island lights, those were the last
Right.
4 that we had to do there. And they were an odd sized light. But I did, in regards to the streetlights as well, I did finally get mapping from RG&E. so that we can evaluate what the system is, try to, you know, they had an offer in on the system or a proposal for us to purchase the system. But I think one of the things we wanted to make sure is that we can provide the same level of service. Frankly, I'm not unhappy with RG&E except for the invoice part of it. If they stop sending us the bill, I'd be really happy with them. But as far as the streetlights, they're pretty responsive. Not all communities share that experience, but they're pretty responsive. So I want to make sure we can have that same level of service for our residents. But we don't have electricians, we don't have a bucket truck, we don't have a lot of the things. So when you're looking at, if we have a light out, how much, you know, if we have to hire a company to do this or do it through an intermunicipal agreement with some other municipality that has those electricians, bucket trucks and things like that, what's that gonna cost us? You know, if we save $60,000 a year on streetlights, but we have to spend 70, we went backwards, you know, so.
All right,
We had the Ontario Truck and Garage, what were we using that for?
That was some lights they were taking down on Main Street. Some of the extra lights that were up there.
In the trees?
Yes. I think the ones that weren't working, I think we were trying to leave the ones, some of them up for Jazz Fest, just not have them operating. We don't have to put them back in, but I think there were some that were no longer with us, so they got removed.
Can I ask this question? If you look at 5112, 426, no, excuse me, 5112, 428. The loader rental disappeared from the budget that we just got today, but yet on one that you provided, there was 20,000, and you said that's 16 for the loader. So where did that go?
It went to equipment,
It went to the equipment line?
because that's too large of a number to be in the rental line. If anything's over $5,000, it's an equipment item, so it moved up to the equipment line.
Which is which line?
5112, 200.
I think that 5112, 200, I think we had a backhoe in that line. Then there were 16,000, we were looking at if we did a yearly rental on the loader, the wheel loader.
Oh, you're talking about an additional one?
Yes, different piece of equipment, and that,
Then it would be
I
double.
don't believe we can capitalize a rental,
Yes.
because it's not something
It's
we're,
a rental, but is it like the most recent one that we received?
it's not a lease, like,
Okay.
or a lease purchase agreement, it would just be, hey, we're getting it for 5 months each year, they send us a new.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood your
Yeah.
line item then. I will put that back in, I apologize.
All right. What's that?
So the equipment line, 5112, 200 at 20,000, 5112, 200.
yeah.
So that's the loader. That'll be the last payment, and then it'll be ours, right?
On the backhoe, I think
Yeah.
that was the last,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
one thing I was gonna ask you, if that was the last one.
I'm pretty sure that's, this coming fiscal year's payment will be the last piece. So that rental line is to be 19, Jake, or 16?
I'm always gonna guess higher, 60, or,
16?
no. I think because there was other
What's
rentals.
the difference, 18?
I think, okay. Move ahead. I think there was other things in that rental. Well, I guess 16 for the loader itself, and did we have an existing rental line? That was 5112, 428. I had yearly 16 and then project equipment 4K. So that's why I had 20 in that line, because.
Oh, and
you know,
I
if we
just
had-
assumed it was the backhoe.
Yeah, no, if we had to do, that's why it broke out, if we had to do because we don't have the loader available to us, if we had to do a weekly, like grab a loader for a week or a week and a half to, you know, moving stone or loading something, we'd have it available to us for, in a project, that's what that extra 4 should cover. The 16 is the winter. I mean, and actually, the 16 that we were talking about might be more appropriate in the 5142 line, which is,
Yeah,
If there's-
specifically for winter time.
yeah, if there's a 5142, 428, would that be a
Yep, it could be.
rental line for,
We'll make one. 51, 42, 428.
Yeah,
How much there? 14?
16, and then 4 in the other.
Let's go 18. If you need more out of that, we can find it, contingent or whatever, but let's go 18.
18 and 5142
Because suddenly we're adding these things in here, so 18.
for 5142?
That's the new line you're creating, correct?
Yes.
So this line here of 5112,428 is going to sit empty. And we're moving down and creating a new line of 5142,428.
I was putting 16 in that
Excuse
line.
me, I'm sorry, down to wherever snow is. Right?
Yeah, 5142, 428, if we could have 16 there, and then we're looking at, if you want to make it 18, then 2 in that 5142, or 5112, 428.
Okay. Wherever you put it.
Yeah.
I'll learn about all these numbers next week.
Hopefully, me too.
So what are we doing? In the rental here, 5112,428, we're going 18?
No, 5112, 428 would be 2,000, and the 5142, 428 would be 16. And then that would leave you 18, I think.
16 plus 2.
I thought we were starting with 20.
Well, we were with them, they said 18 instead of 20, so that's why we split up. The 16 is kind of a fixed cost for the snow rental, and the 2,000, it's,
So
that varies, so.
it varies. So if we need more, we'll find it. So 2 and 16, and there's a new line, 5142,428. That's correct?
Yeah. And then the 5112, 200 is staying at the 20 because that's the backhoe, the final payment,
Right.
that lease purchase agreement.
So then we own that.
Yes.
Do we plan on swapping that out periodically?
That was the plan, I have no idea what just fell. That was the plan originally, but CAT seems to keep changing their policy on swap outs. It was every year you can change it out and get the new piece of equipment just for the cost of the annual, or the increase in the retail price and the hours used. Now they're changing, I believe they're up to a 2 or a 3 year time frame now rather than an every year. So I think our next time we need a backhoe, our purchase decision is gonna be reflective of the consistency of their agreements when they're making a sales pitch. I mean, I might suggest a Case or a John Deere or something else, because I don't think once you should keep changing it, you know? I can see changes on new ones moving forward, we're not gonna do it anymore, but it's, that's what they're doing now, so.
Talk about publicity a little bit. 6410, 400. We're up to 4,000 or down to 4,000.
We were
Includes
down
the-
to 5, maybe. That's the,
I'm sorry, yeah, from 8,
And-
okay.
pretty large expenditure for Christmas
Yeah.
lights. Huh?
Hey,
So
you
actually
can't put
that,
a price on the holidays, sir.
The publicity is what? The 2,253 that's projected.
Or that actual,
Yeah, so
The 5,000,
6410, 400?
Yeah. That's when I'm out there passing out the Howling kit.
no, actually not. It includes, flags that are to be replaced for $1,000. And actually, the $5,000 there is really, it was cut from last time, and I didn't get a chance to speak about what it included.
What are we doing, flags for what, $1,000?
Yes?
yeah, flags,
The ones that fly along?
yes.
Maybe we need to take them down a little bit sooner, and those poles could be, if the guys have something to do, they actually could probably sand them and varnish them again and use them. I don't know if we buy new poles all the time?
No, we don't use new
Those go
poles, we
on?
don't buy new poles every time, but when they start looking dilapidated, we
Well, maybe
replace
they
them.
need to come down a little bit sooner.
Well, we can, they're about an $8 pole, we can spend $20 in labor to fix an $8 pole.
But if we're talking $1,000 for flags every
Right.
year,
Yeah,
I think we could bring that down a little bit.
we try to keep them from Memorial Day to Veterans Day. And we do whatever we'd like to do with
But,
this.
I know where they are right now, a lot of them are just hanging in their office, not put away, or not being used, or not even disposed of,
I
so.
think there's still one out front that's rusty.
Anyways,
We should pull that one.
the flagpole at Vets Park,
Mhm.
no. Because the Vet Park, whole project kind of went down. If we do that, it's in the park, and we would use Park and Rec
All right.
to do that. So that's why it got cut back from 8,000. We also don't have the promotion of the Village Voice, so there was a cut right there automatically at $3,000, unless we find somebody. And we do not have anybody for that, so that's why it's advertised.
Maybe your camera is interested in that job.
Also right. My question for this also is for plants, 6410, 432 at $17,000.
6410 plants last year were 13,400. And parks were 1,000. So I upped it by a little bit, and that's where the 17 comes from. So it combines the parks plants and the 6410 plants around the village.
Yeah, and we've also got additional to plant at the gazebo.
Oh, that's right,
I
yeah.
mean, the new pavilion down
Yeah.
on North Ave as well this year.
And the new, did they put something in on Lapham?
Well, that's gonna be insurance, that's gonna be offset,
Oh,
yeah.
That also was another group interested in doing that. Last year, Jake, I had 2018 at Welch hanging baskets. We had 84 of them, 35 apiece for basically $2,940. Basket liners at $5, and you said we don't necessarily need them every year, but there were 84 of those, 420. We had annuals mixed, $12, I believe, a flat, 85 of those, or unless those were I don't think they're charging us $12, are they, for the plants to go in there? Because wouldn't that be the hanging basket? But anyways, that was 1,000. And then we had a number of things that you had here, 23 geraniums, 225 potted plants, and 25 flats of annuals again. So anyways, that didn't total up to be 17, and this year, if we're looking at maybe 30, even if we double that to 60 baskets and things, that would be around 1,224. So I'm questioning, because I think we can do some flowers in the parks, out of Park and Rec. I don't know, I asked Christina to look into that, whether we can do that out of the money we have for that, but 17 to me seems just a little bit high.
I'm
So,
trying to look, those are lines that we have been, we used to have one line for planters in the parking lots, one line for planters in the park, one line for planters along Main Street, one line for hanging baskets. And I don't know if mulch was a separate line or if it was always, if it was something else.
Topsoil is a separate line.
Topsoil is a separate one, but I don't know about mulch. It
Mulch goes in
out
this one too.
And all the planting beds as well. So
Yeah, the
mulch
mulch
is in
goes
there
in this line too.
as well. So I'm just looking back and trying to look back at what the combined numbers on those lines were. I see $7,000 for the 6410, which is the ones along Main Street. And I just want to, look back and see if there's other lines, the 74 or 7140. I don't see those ones. There was one that was, parking lot planners had their own lines for some reason. I think the last few years, we've been trying to, put those all towards one thing, so.
well, there were plantings back in 17 at $100, which disappeared, and I assume that's been absorbed into that.
Yeah. So I think there might be some room on that one. I think we said combine all lines. I had a question on that one, combine all lines, include ground plants and parks, parking lots, Main Street, North Ave, and the mulch. And that also is where the new baskets are gonna be, or the new big planters are, not the planters themselves, but the flowers in those planters are going through.
Now, we're projecting for next year, because we have 13.4 to pay for this year,
Yes, yep,
for what we're talking about doing.
Yep.
My question is, we're going up almost $4,000 for next year, which would then be in the spring.
yeah, I think that if we wanted to,
Can we bring it down to 15?
I
I don't know
certainly,
what we can do.
based on what we have this year, I certainly would expect that we probably could, and,
Plants will probably go up by next year though.
yeah.
Keep that in mind. You
We'll
got
plan it farther
12
apart.
months away from that.
Well,
Well, we'll just have to rob Peter to pay Paul.
We'll space them apart a little further.
Yeah, well, if it's plans, that's something that, you stick within your budget, then it come up with a different design. You heard us talk about the pots, moving them down to that island and stuff, and not buying more of those big things. Only got
Right.
3 clusters all over the place, everywhere down the
Right.
sidewalk.
No,
I heard- Yeah.
I didn't hear that, but,
Oh,
You know,
that's
the
why
island,
that line-
the island down there, that corner of the side, I mentioned about buying pots for those, and I mentioned, why don't we just take some of the other ones we already got, or we put 3 clusters.
that's what we're gonna do, is
Okay.
try to move some of what we have and buy the reservoirs for them, and then get, I think it was 6 smaller ones, but with reservoirs, so that, because it's a, it's kind of a dangerous spot to get on, and the reservoir ones, we could look at, where you have to fill them about once a week, those big lots, or those big pots, and that's, we're gonna try. I've heard some that it's not, they don't work out that great, and other people say, yeah, they're wonderful, so, that'd be a good, it's probably the worst spot
To water
there
stuff.
is where they are, because it's gotta be so warm, and everything going by it, so it'd be a great test in that area, and the reservoirs.
And then what they put in those ones can be different. There are stuff that can go longer periods of time without water, and it can take the heat a little bit more, so maybe the plantings and those ones are a little bit different, There's stuff that's more hardier.
But yeah, I think we want to make that 15, we can, make it 15, if we have to space them out, we'll space them out. Then they grow all together anyway, so.
Yeah, I think the only negative feedback I've heard was that everyone thinks they're beautiful, except the cluster put on those things.
even that,
Yeah, and then the ones,
and we don't buy those.
I know, but could use them down there, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what did we say, 15?
Yes.
And Jake, that line that you had said for, I think you had 7 for those new planters,
Mhm.
that was reduced to 4, and it actually won't be an equipment line anymore, it'll become an other line. because 4,000 is not enough to capitalize. So it'll become line number 6410-470.
That was line 6410-200.
Correct. Will become 6410-470.
Can we, Chris, can we take out, or Jake, park facility repairs, you have in here, having spent this year, it looks like 3,600, and projecting for next year, can we take that out of park and rec or not? Because apparently this is repair of park facilities and park, if this is truly in the park that we have.
Don would probably be a better one to answer this, but I believe, my understanding is.
That money is supposed to be used for capital improvements, not regular maintenance and repairs.
So it's only for buying equipment, or,
Or if you put it in a baseball field, that's not
Or play
equipment.
equipment like we did a
But
couple
it's a
years
capital
ago.
You could buy trees with it,
Right.
you know, it's not just equipment, but it's anything,
That is not.
anything that's supposed to last more than a year, you know,
And
in a
capitalize
park.
at least 5, right?
Well,
There's all stipulated, it's over 5
it's
grand.
certainly not, it's not regular maintenance though.
Right.
Or
so if you are replacing a park bench at $1,200 or whatever, is that not included, that's maintenance?
Well, if that bench was 5 grand, it would be
Right.
capital.
You could probably,
There's a threshold.
replacing a park bench, that's not repairing a park bench.
I'm curious as to what this is. We're looking at like at the bandstand, Jake? Or what?
I think it's throughout the parks, the bandstand, we're looking at some of the bandstand stuff, some of the repairs that come up to the play equipment, to the facilities, to the benches, to the trash cans, anything we have to do to one of the pieces of equipment in the park, one of the I don't wanna say it's not a facility, but it's a piece of equipment that's fixed there in the park,
I don't think we mess with that.
No, I'm asking the question.
No.
I asked the question, where can the money come from?
Right.
I didn't say that's where.
Yeah, no, I
Can
get
it
you.
come from a different source? That's all I asked.
And one of the things we look at doing is a great point, when we're doing things for replacements, or, replacements, not repairs, but replacements or installations of things, we should look at maybe combining those, because it's a separate and combine those into something, maybe, within a budget year, near that time where hey, we're gonna do this year, we're planning this next year, if we can combine those things and look at taking them, because there's a permissive referendum and things when we're
Right.
looking at the parks budget, trying to do any replacements out of that, and I think you can, it's not an individual item, but if we had let's get up to, not that we're gonna try to look for different things, way to spend it, but if we have to make those expenditures anyway, let's look at maybe grouping them together so they are, if they're gonna exceed the 5,000 anyway, we might as well use them out of that, and if there's something that we capitalize or put into the Parks and Rec Reserve, that's what it's there to make our parks better,
That would be the best recommendation, is to make a plan of, okay, we're gonna spend 3,000 on the band shell, we're gonna spend 1,200 at Vets Park for the bench or the clock or whatever. And then you can do a permissive referendum and say, you are allowed, the vote would be, you are allowed to spend up to $5,000 on X, and X fixes. Instead of, okay, $1,000 for this and 2,000, you don't wanna do permissive referendum every 2 weeks.
Correct.
So do we stay with the 3,000, or we do wanna
think we're-
delete
We're
it?
staying.
Stay, yeah.
Pretty close. Anything else? Anything else you want to say?
No,
We'll have to come back this week.
yeah, no, but I had one covered, so.
As you get to the end, the only other thing that you might notice is that the group health insurance went down slightly. and I changed the transfer to reserves for the equipment rotation and for the well decommissioning by $5,000 each, down to 20 instead of 25, just to try to count them out a little bit there. I left plenty going into the commercials, and Donovan Street. Sometime that's gonna have to get done. We go into that.
I did notice just one thing on the storm sewer equipment. That's not equipment, again, that was a capital line. And that was gutters outside of the gutter replacement we were looking at on the northern portion of Curtis. This was specifically gutters that we're looking at the end of Champion, when there's a problem area down in there. We're on the north end of Champion where it goes out. That gutter, I think it was about 200 feet of gutter, and it's about 13,500. And I see it got moved down to 12. Try to shorten up the ending, I guess, a little bit, but
What's the line, Jake?
it's 8140, it should be an 8144.
200.
Or 200, yeah, thank you.
Page 7, almost at the bottom.
Yeah, second yellow one.
Storm sewer equipment?
Yeah, that was gutter, like I said, gutter replacements on Champion. And that little portion that was outside of, if we're not doing them as part of a major road repair, we don't put them to the 5112, the road repair, or the road lines. And Champion itself is about 13.5 or 13.6, so that's why we were looking at that figure that was in there before. I think we had 15 for that.
Yeah,
and
15.
months, yeah. We'd like to get that north end of Champion buttoned up.
You had it at 15 or 18?
I added 15.
Yeah, 15 before. And again, that was north end of Champions and little onesie twosies, basically for each 10-foot section is about a half a yard of concrete. Concrete's about, let's call it $110, not quite, but 110. So we do a little bit more with the extra. If they're infill ones that we do ourselves, but why we have a machine here doing Curtis, it's nice to have one big, especially in radiuses, one big monolithic slab that goes through there.
One combination of all. All right, so you wanted to go to 15, stay at 15.
If we can, yeah.
Hopefully we can be economized there. All right,
Thanks.
all right, thank you. We'll, you have a sewer. I just want to make a note on that before we leave this discussion on the budget. There is a note here that the rate will change. We are looking at, as you know, we were provided with, we made the cutoff for hardship, for a loan, or for bonding a loan for the sewer project. We talked about a $5 million project, and looking ahead to that, what we are projecting for this year and what that does for this particular budget, it actually brings it right in line and allows us also to begin to pay on the new serial bond that we will need, and that is to raise the rate. I'm looking here at 150, 120. Just for your information, as we've already been through this, we talked about what that projection was in terms of doing our own, going not to the town, but doing our own, based on the study we had to upgrade our sewer system. Our plant, STP plant, And we talked about going to a rate of 180 for the next 12 years. That would, in fact, cover the increase of 3% per year for O&M, and also cover the
New bond.
new bond principal. If we have 0%, it may in fact be less than that, because we would not have interest payments, principal payments only. I bring that up because it was brought up just a couple of months ago again, looking at going to the town. The town right now is at 172, that's just for this year, and projecting out into the future with the combination, we would be well over $200 most likely here in the village. So that certainly has not been hammered out and put out there yet. We're still waiting for that meeting to take place, but I believe that based on some projections, that is where the village would be. So at one way or the other, within the next year, this will be going up. And so right now, looking at going to 150 puts us in a very good position to move forward with the STP plan that we have. So, take a look at it. We'll discuss that. Yes, sir.
One thing, I was just looking at sewer revenues, and I had a note on the bottom, I think, of what I sent. And honestly, Chris was out, and then I was out of the office, and Chris was out, so we've had a hard time connecting on, face to face on some of these. I think there's a sewer revenue line for equipment sales that should be reflected. We're talking about I see the equipment purchase is the same, but I think I had projected about 21,000 in sales for the sewer line for their van mower and the Wildcat turner.
Oh, revenue for the sewer?
Yeah.
$21?
Yeah, I think it was about 20, yeah, definitely was 21,000 that I had in there. I just didn't know, I was trying to look quick to see if it was in something.
No, I don't know how I missed that, I do apologize.
No, I had
it
it just a small, I didn't have a number on it when I sent it over. I just had a line and
Oh,
no number, because I didn't want to make one up.
and then the purchase of new equipment is reflected in that, oh, there is no purchase amount.
Yeah, you had 81,300 line that
Oh,
has,
8130, sorry, yeah. 43, is
yeah.
that
So,
enough?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, that's what the projection was on that one. Oh, actually, yeah, yep. That should do it.
What was that line?
81,200 is the equipment line for sewer, that's still at 43.
Page 3, 43,000. About a third down.
Well, we will be revisiting that. Okay? All right. What I would like to do now is to move to our regular meeting. And it is 7:13, I believe. And so we will move now to our regular meeting. So if I could have all of you stand, I'd like to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Speak. And we will begin with public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the board this evening? Okay, if not, not, then I will close the public comment portion of the meeting, and we will move then to village business. First is the resolution to approve our minutes as written by the clerk. First one is for the February 5th workshop. Any comments?
No.
If not, then I would, do I do it all in one go? Okay, that's all right with me. Since I've looked them all over. February 28th, the village board meeting minutes. And also the March 5th workshop meeting minutes. I have no comment, no additions or questions regarding it. Anyone else does, I'd entertain that, but we do have a quorum here. So can I have a resolution to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item of business is a resolution to approve the budget modifications and transfers. We have them in front of you. First is a modification and transfer from the, for the general fund, from the fund balance of $115,264.81, transferred to capital, $115,264.81. This is the ban for North Avenue project coming due in early April. Payment to pay the ban off is $725,000. $447,593.50 is in the capital fund. $162,141.69 is in the North Avenue Reserve, and the remaining amount due was not previously budgeted for. In the 2017 fiscal year, the village had a surplus of $191,000, directly resulting in part from the North Ponds incentive monies we received from mortgage management. So we are looking to transfer from the fund balance where this money was to pay for that, okay? So can I have a motion to approve the modification?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Second, we have a budget modification for the sewer. We are moving from line GG.8130.200 sewage treatment equipment, $3,850 to line GG.8130.415 building maintenance, $3,850. This is for an invoice paid $618 for a crane that was used for the STP repair with Bolter. So I have a motion to make that budget modification.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next we have a resolution to approve the claims and warrants that were presented. I had an opportunity to look them over, and my questions actually were answered. The only question that I actually had, which I took the opportunity to look up at Lowe's, was a pencil blowpipe. And I thought that that was rather an interesting piece of equipment that was being purchased. And what was going on, it's like the straws in the old days where you would take the little wads of paper and, you know, I thought
Yeah.
maybe that was
Stick
the
it on
line
the
of that.
ceiling.
But, at any rate, what it actually is it fits on the end of a compressor hose, is that correct? And then you can twist that and you can adjust the flow
Yeah.
up to actually 200 pounds per square inch of pressure. So I thought, anyways, I learned something in that, so that was good. Otherwise, I have no problem with that.
I'm good with it, too.
Jerry, you were the, you put down
I'll
also.
second, sir.
All right, so I'd entertain a motion to pay the claims and warrants as they are presented to us.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Comp and overtime report is in front of you, and not a whole lot of overtime. It's been for a period of time where we didn't have too much in the way of snow.
That's under the column, under the final column there, when they're.
Oh, well, I guess we did then.
We did have a little.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we've had a respite the last couple of weeks, so, or these days, so that's good. When is the spring medal? Is it 21st?
Second.
Yes.
Second?
Spring's the 20th.
Is it?
Yeah.
20th? Jake's
I
on
say it
time?
with authority, though, people won't question it. Sound confident.
All right. Well, I saw my first robin of the spring today,
Me too.
however. Out in the lawn across the street. I was pecking at grass looking for
I know, it's
worms,
looking
but I
good.
don't know. All right, well, this is our overtime report, and
I gotta yell.
I have it yellow. All right, next we have a discussion here on our small cell law that we're looking at, proposed draft law. And Don sent us a copy of a draft that was presented, that he got yesterday. And I've had some opportunity of taking a look at it. I hope you guys also have had that.
I can tell you the changes. I spoke with Mike Roberts beginning of the week. But they were on, go to page 7. Actually, top of page 8, for whether the ground-mounted accessory equipment, where there was the prohibition that it be located within 50 feet. So I thought, that Mike agreed that it's a good idea, rather than an outright prohibition, if for some reason, you know, it's gotta be within 50 feet, then they can, you know, obtain a special use approval from the village board. If they can come and justify why it's gotta be within 50 feet of a residential, and it's, because it doesn't talk about residential districts, but it says residential use, which Verizon correctly pointed out, there are residential uses in commercial and industrial zones.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you gotta be careful, you can't outright ban the cell stuff, you know, so.
Yeah.
So this
These
gives-
things still work well when they're like buried in snow. They do.
That's beyond my expertise.
I was asking Carl since he's got.
It's covered, it's a strong enough signal.
This one.
These things can go through a wall, Jerry. They can go through a wall.
Yeah.
Very strong signal. The idea is really strong.
So there was that, and, and then there's a couple of minor things, and,
We kept the indemnification, correct?
yeah, right, I haven't, even though I asked Tom Greiner for their authority, I haven't gotten anything,
Well, I noticed it in the law that was,
so. It's in the New Bedford one. and-
right.
So we'll just leave that. And page 16 at the very bottom, this used to say, within 90 days of receipt of a complete application for a pole facility. That's the only place that phrase was used, a pole facility, and it's not defined anywhere. So I asked him, what the heck's a pole facility? I said, do you mean a tower-based wireless communication facility? He says, yes. Well, then why don't we use tower-based WCF since we've got that defined? So we got rid of pole facility and just substituted tower-based WCF. And then, also at the, on page 19, originally, it had, if you go back to the beginning of that subsection B, it says, tower-based WCFs are permitted outside the public rights-of-way only in the general industrial district and the West End business district. However, you know, all of this, if they have to put up a new tower for a small cell facility, that's tower-based. It's gotta go in front of the, it's gotta go in front of this board for a special use permit. And those might be located somewhere outside of either the West End Business District or the General Industrial District. So rather than have to go get a variance for that, we added C, where tower-based WCF that meets the definition of a small WCF are permitted outside the public rights-of-way in all zoning districts as a special use subject to the requirements of this chapter. So,
I don't think that's gonna be a big deal, but.
well, it's,
Well,
again,
but
if
it
they,
allows that,
if they gotta be 500 feet apart,
Right.
you know, you're gonna end up with them in districts other than the general industrial district and West End business district. And why force them to go in front of the zoning board?
Yeah.
Instead, they'll come before this board,
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
you know?
and these are outside the public right of way, correct?
Right,
So it would be like coming here for putting it in the backyard.
Yeah.
if they have to put up a new pole or something in the backyard, they gotta come here. But before they couldn't, it was prohibited if it was in a residential area, district. And then they'd end up in front of the zoning board, and the zoning board would probably be forced to give them a variance because of the way the federal laws read, and the standards are much different for wireless, you know, cell facilities than anything else, so it makes more sense just to
Yep.
have them come here. And let's see here. And again, on that page, on page 20, so this is the ground-mounted accessory equipment. Now this is for tower-based WCF. Before it was for non-tower-based WCF. We added the same language that it can be within 50 feet. Well, it can't be within 50 feet of a lot in residential use unless the applicant shows the satisfaction of the village board that locating it within 50 feet is necessary for the provision of wireless service and that no less intrusive location is technically feasible. So, and again, they're going to be in front of this board anyhow, but this just gives them a standard that they have to meet in order to, if they have to locate it within 50 feet of a lot in residential use. So we thought that was a reasonable kind of thing. And then and then on page 21, before it said that tower-based WCFs in the public right-of-way shall be permitted along certain collector roads. Well, so I said, well, what's a collector road? If you look up the definition of a collector road, it is a road that doesn't get a lot of traffic and it feeds to main roads. So I said, well, why don't, those are basically in the village, those are all the village streets, the village-owned streets. So why don't we, so we don't have to be confused as to what a collector road is, why don't we just call it village streets? So,
So we need to come up with that.
but so your choice is either, you gotta come up with this map and you gotta do this soon. And I suggest that if you want that, you know, not that Jake needs more to do, but either he or Derek, Will should, and again, thinking that these things potentially have to be within 500 feet of each other, have to go through a map that's scaled and figure out which streets they can go on, but still keep, you know, so that you can get full coverage throughout the village if you need to.
All right, they should pilot it on like Elm Street.
Sure. That'll be 3 or 4 of them.
All right, Jerry, well, you're going off on a tangent, just confusing the issue here, but sure, we can put that in, why don't we put that right in the ordinance, that, you know,
Well,
we
pilot
gotta
means,
first do them on Elm Street.
pilot's a good thing. See how it works.
The alternative, the alternative
Donnie
is,
too.
the alternative is simply to allow them on all village-owned streets, you know, as a, but because they're still gonna have to come in front of this board anyhow. Because again, this is just for tower base. So again, that would be a new pole. It wouldn't be on an existing light pole or utility pole. Those are the non-tower ones, where they only have to come to this board if they are substantially modifying or changing the existing pole.
But before they do that, do you think they would plan on coming in front of the board with a map like you indicated with their projections on where these poles are gonna go before they even start?
Well, no.
They're not gonna start it if they
No,
wanna do
They're
it.
gonna have an application that's gonna be for a specific pole, so they gotta obviously tell you where that pole is. They're not gonna come in with an application that we wanna put in 500 of these things all at once.
It's gonna be one at a time.
Right.
And put it in perspective, looking at some information from the industry, when they try to densify these networks, they say 100 to 350 per square kilometer, which I don't know how big that is, so I converted it to American, and it's, or 2.2 square miles of village, and figured 4 cell carriers, it could be between 2,500 and 8,000 of these. Certainly, I think they're not gonna have, for all 4 carriers. So, we don't have 8,000 poles in the village, they might have to put new ones, but there's, at 500-foot radius, there's a significant number of these that could potentially, it's just number-wise, based on the area, what they said they would need for density, so obviously, they're going along streets, they're not going in backyards and things like that, but they could have a significant number of them in the village, depending on how many carriers
I agree.
are doing things here, so, it's certainly technology was something people need, it's just a matter of having it
Yeah,
all.
minimizing how it looks, that's all I can do.
Which is what the stealth.
Well, I just don't, and again, someone's gonna have to take the time to figure out, where this 500 feet is with relation to all the village-owned streets, and to make sure that you're not leaving out a street that, that they have to have in order to get the proper coverage. If it ends up that there are certain streets where they don't have to have them, I guess if I lived on all the other streets, I might be a little upset at that, so why you gotta put them on my street and not somebody else's street? I don't know, you need to think about whether just allow them on every village-owned street as it is, knowing that they gotta come in front of this board anyhow and justify the placement of that particular pole, that it's necessary to densify their system.
If they need to put up
anyhow.
a pole.
Huh?
If they need to put up a pole.
Right, this
They-
isn't
this
for
is-
anything
They can go up on
existing.
an existing one and
This
co-locate a
doesn't,
couple
this
of them.
only covers tower-based WCFs, which are
New.
new poles, whose primary purpose is for the cellular antenna. So they're gonna try, I think economically it benefits them to go on existing utility poles, light poles and that kind of stuff. It's cheaper, right? They're gonna try to minimize the number of new poles
Yeah, sure.
that they're gonna have to do.
But if they think it's totally required for service, you're gonna come to this board and you say no, what, you're gonna have a street without the service, that's,
Well, if they can show that it's necessary in order to provide the service to that area of the village,
all right,
you really
obviously.
can't say no.
Right, that's
Well,
what I'm
there's
saying.
there's
I'm
also,
saying.
And why would they ask for it if they didn't think it was necessary?
Right,
there's
So
also
in
a plus
hindsight-
minus of the 500 feet, though. It's not exactly 500
Well, that's
feet. It
true.
could be 400 than 60 to 500.
Right, but as long as they have the data behind why they're doing it, what are you gonna,
It depends on
Right.
data loss and all that.
Right.
So,
But there are
Yeah,
different
but-
alternatives to locations and placements of these that we wouldn't, the village necessarily wouldn't be denying service or denying them the ability to densify their network if other alternatives were approved. I mean, I think
Right.
I saw things where they installed these as in manhole covers. You know, they could do ground-based ones that are installed actually underground, where you still have the antenna, you know, on the ground. So there's different things that are less intrusive than some of the things. And I think as long as everybody's working together, you know, you kind of know what you don't want, I think. And, we need that system, but,
what's your alternative besides like pole?
right, it might be, we don't necessarily, I think, and I don't know, from the village standpoint, the village board doesn't necessarily have to provide them access in the cheapest way possible. We say, yeah, you can have access everywhere in the village you want, but, you know, it can't be god awful ugly either, you know, and there's different options that are available. Might cost you $3,000 more to put this one in. I'm not saying you can't, but there's give and take, I think. That's just,
Yeah, well, those kind of aesthetic concerns are covered elsewhere.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying general, not specific to page 21 here.
The height,
I don't know, I'm just, again, it's up to you, as, like you said, but
we have to have a map.
either if you keep it the way it is, you have to have a map, and someone's gonna have to take the time to figure all this out. And to me, that, it doesn't sound like it's gonna be an easy exercise to do that. Or, like I said, the alternative is simply just allow them on all village streets, and then knowing that it's subject to them getting a special use permit anyhow.
You know, their engineering department will look at all the pole layouts within the village and try to attach their equipment to existing pole lines and all that stuff. I don't think that they're gonna be throwing in a pole every 500 feet, you know, in front of a house or something.
Well, that could be
They'll
a
try to
message.
use the backyard pole lines, or, you know, if our basic service comes down on the street side, he'll try to get up there. And I don't think that there's gonna be a big problem with requesting, you know, extra poles here and there. There might be a few, but it's not gonna be too much.
Wow.
Because there's poles and light, you know, there's light poles and telephone poles and everything all over the place.
Right,
So
but just the math of every 500 feet.
It is.
Per to
It
what
is.
Jake said.
It is, but it's a
There's
plus or
amount of
minus, so
poles,
they could,
it doesn't add up.
they can, you know, go over to the next pole, or whatever, because, you know, the poles in the village are basically 80 feet apart in the backyards.
Is
Well,
this,
80 to 100
I
feet.
agree with you, I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot
No, I
of
don't
these
either, now that I think about it.
new poles going up. And if that's the case, then why do we need to even go through this exercise of coming up with a map and only permitting them on
You
certain
don't have
streets?
to, it would be a waste of time.
I agree with you. So I think we should, my recommendation would be to get rid of that and to just say that they're permitted, you know, along all, you know, in the rights of way of all village-owned streets. You know, for, what is it? Is Phillips Road the only county road in the village? For Phillips Road and Main Street and North and South Avenue, those are state-owned.
right,
They're gonna have to go to either the county for Phillips Road or to the state to put them in the right-of-way of those places. And they'll say yes or no.
Pretty sure that they'll, when all this begins to happen, they'll come in front of this board and say, you know, we're gonna start on, Dunning Avenue, and we're gonna use the existing pole line that's there, and try to space our equipment the right way so that we don't have to add poles.
Right.
If, you know, having actually done that myself, I would use what's there for.
And we can also message that as well, if that's what our,
And,
like the.
and there are alternatives, that being a small below-ground chamber. Don't forget that all these units need to have power also,
So
so
you put it there, you're gonna have to add other sources of light.
if they put one of these objects on a light bulb in front of your house, or my house, or your house down on your street, the power's gotta come from someplace, and usually it'll come from a pole where there's overhead power. Or if it's, they're gonna put it on a street light, they can mount this equipment underneath, you know, it could be underground. It could be undergrounded in a small concrete box. You know, so my hope would be that AT&T comes in here and does this the right way so that the village residents are not, you know, they're gonna want the service, but they're not gonna want the ugly that come with it, so we have to be prepared to add as few poles as they need, you know, I mean, I like that idea of them coming in front of the board for each pole,
Yeah, they have to.
because then I can say, you know, I mean, we all can say that, we can vote for it, right?
Right, we say no, but you may have, they need
You
to
have to
come up with
use
an
an alternative,
alternative
that's
plan.
right, exactly.
We can't just say no without that because.
There are alternatives.
Can I ask a question about 125 feet down? Is that something that is mandated or for the height? 125 feet is a pretty, I mean,
Where are you referencing this?
I referenced on page 20 where we were just talking about the new pole. The applicant shall demonstrate, et cetera. But it's 6, the height, and it says for accessory equipment, in fact, number 6 is the height, and it says that it shall not exceed 125 feet. That's a pretty lofty height.
Well, that's because tower-based WCFs also cover the main cell towers, like the one the village just put up, which is more than 125 foot.
Right.
So we gotta, but if you go on, it says, no WCF applicant shall have the right under these regulations to erect a tower to the maximum height specified unless it proves the necessity for such height.
Okay.
So that's just the maximum, that doesn't mean that's what it's gonna be. And again, logically, they're only gonna put up enough, a tall enough pole that they need, because, you know, the taller you go, the more expensive they are. They're not-
I would hope that most of them would be low anyways, but,
Well, they have to be, in order for the 5G thing to function, they've gotta be close to the devices that they're trying to talk to.
Right.
So they don't want them high.
50
That's
feet.
right.
Like the one behind the KFC is 37 feet.
which.
Which is very small compared to, you know.
Yeah, so you're not gonna see 125-foot small cell towers. That's
You
not-
see that on rooftops more than anything else.
That's not what they're designed to do.
Still, it needs.
Well, is there any discussion about what happens when the competitors begin to come in and want to do the same thing?
Well, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff about how they have to co-locate if at all possible.
That could get pretty messy too. You have Sprint, Cricket,
Yeah.
all those that want to co-locate on the
Right.
pole. And so now you have one, you got another one, you got another one, then you got to power those, all those. You know, if we don't be
Well, they're not
careful,
gonna-
it's going to be a mess.
They're going to fit too much on the existing pole.
No,
Without
they're not.
areas.
It's true.
You already have cable
Well-
lines, you have the power lines, you have.
They can go below the telephone, which is the lowest on the pole. They say they have from ground up to about 18 feet.
They can look like this, that's up there. I
So,
don't know if you can see that little
There's
picture
some-
there.
I thought I saw a couple on State Road.
They can also look like this. You know, this is a small
Good
cell.
size.
Yeah,
You know, so there's a range of what's
Yeah,
possible,
there.
what you can do. There's some concealed things and some not, so. The antenna itself is very small, it's like a roll of paper towels on top of
right.
on top of the telephone pole, really.
Which is,
But it's the accessory things that go with it, so.
Yeah.
they're gonna face a problem with how they're gonna do that, because I just think about Dunning Avenue, I really haven't looked at the rest, but they already have power on the very top of the pole.
So
There's
that,
no place to put them.
that was it, John?
That'll see that, that was.
See what they're gonna do.
So,
The guy that was here didn't tell us much. I don't think.
So does this fit fairly well with Bedford?
yeah. Yeah, this is a little different. It's a little different than that one, but it's got a lot of the same stuff. But what I would like to do is just eliminate, unless you want to go through have somebody actually have to do this map, which needs to be done before you can pass the motion, before you pass the law. I would like to.
I don't think it's necessary.
Well, I would like to just eliminate it.
Yeah, if you'd like, we can look at it real quick. Spend an hour and summarize it 500 words or less. How it would look, and send that. I mean, we might be able to determine in 15 minutes that, trying to segregate it out and do a map of, say, these streets and then not these streets and these streets might be fruitless depending on the way the village is laid out. So we can try to look at it quick and then see if that's, I mean, obviously don't have the map tonight, so we could look at doing that tomorrow and then probably get back to the board pretty quick and say, here's a start of it.
Why don't we, maybe they could come and do one. Show us.
What, a map or installation?
An installation. Show us, you guys bring your material in here and show us what it's gonna look like when it's done and ready to go. Ready to signal, all you gotta do is turn on the switch. Let's see how the power
How
equipment looks.
quickly are they
Let's
going to have the
see.
one down there behind Mexico?
Well, it's on the tower mount.
I know, so
I thought, yeah,
putting a tower up to put this one cell.
yeah. We know basically what the small cell looks like. I'm saying what it looks like on a pole in the backyard or in front of your house. Show us what the power setup is and show us what the unit looks like installed on the pole.
Do we ever do?
Do anything.
I suppose so, but what, are you
Show
gonna
us.
ask, are you gonna ask each
Show me a
carrier?
picture.
Well, each carrier might be different.
It's
And
true.
then, as Jake just said, there's all sorts of different, there's all sorts of different configurations for these.
Yes, there is.
So which one do you wanna look at?
I think when they decide which one they're putting in, they can come and show us. But they don't, I don't think anyone knows it yet.
Well, that's gonna be part of the application.
Right.
You gotta show you what it looks like.
Right, so then we kind of look at it then.
And, if you don't like the way that one looks, you can ask them to, is there any alternatives?
On your
I agree, we should probably-
can you make a 450-foot diameter circle and place them onto the map?
But yes, I tried, just for giggles, I did a couple weeks ago, doing one on Fuller Avenue that started, here's one, here's a pole, go 400 feet away, here's another, 400, or 450, 500 feet. I tried making circles, and then I realized, after I did the street, that it's 500-foot radius, not diameter, so I had to take back half of them that I put in there. But I think you could lay it out pretty quickly just to see, see what's what. If we had a map, we could print out a big map at scale, I can figure out, what size diameter thing's 500 and just print out a bunch of those and lay them on top of it,
Yeah, if we can do it quickly, that's fine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would probably say it's, may not be worth it.
Yeah.
All right, so we will look at that very quickly and see, and then decide whether to take that out of the village streets.
Okay, because, yeah. if you, because then we can just eliminate that, and then it's covered under, because the small cell tower base, you can just change it that whether it's inside or outside the public right of way, they'd be allowed in all zoning districts as a special use. Meaning we gotta come to the board.
Any other discussion on that?
So I'll wait to hear from Jake about the feasibility of the map.
Jake,
At least we got.
if you call the RD&E engineering department, they can supply you with a map of the entire village of Webster on one
Yeah,
page.
Jake's tried that in the past and.
Yeah, it took me about a year and a half to have them admit that they had mapping.
Don't you have any connections over there?
Yeah, Carl made the call on your behalf.
But I do have mapping.
Show you where every pole is in it, in the village.
Yeah.
Street light and pole.
Yep, that's what took me about a year and a half for them to admit that they even possessed. But I did just recently get some, we could look at utilizing that, or sometimes an aerial shot too will give me, I can look and see where the poles are, mark them, and go, well, see what we have, what we can print out, maybe even a zoning map quick, and that's kind of the scale, and then, then put a bunch of 1,000-foot circles, and lay them on the map and see what they look like.
But I think once this issue is resolved, map or no map, we'd be set to get this thing passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Okay?
And we'll set a date for the public hearing and
Right, then whenever we're all set out, we, just bring another motion to set up a date for the public hearing, and then we have to do the advertising. And then triggers, the seeker thing's got to run all, do that all over again.
okay, the last thing that we have discussion of the sign code. Jude isn't here, she may want to input that. I have, and I can get this to you, the planning board, village planning board, February 24, 2016, put together discussion points, the current state of our signs, definitions that need clarification, considerations, and desired results and next step for signs. So they did a fairly comprehensive consideration about the signs, and it didn't go anywhere. It was to move on. Schedule a workshop for this, but it obviously didn't go much further. So I will make or have copies sent to everybody so you can take a look at what they looked at in terms of the current state. They also referenced a number of sign codes in other villages. Pittsford has a decent one. I think we looked also, I don't know if you remember, Heather, there were at least three that I looked at because I was looking at putting together an introduction, what we were actually looking for in terms of our signs here in the village, to keep the village character, to all those kinds of things. And so those are available, and we'll try to get those out to everybody. But right now, and as a result of the discussion last time, the diamond is no longer lit up after hours.
Good.
And I believe only one flag is flying in front of the diamond store. So some progress was made
Did
with
we
that.
send any kind of a little notice to the
Actually,
residents?
to who? The resident?
Yeah, that brought the complaint.
Well, I'm sure that they saw what was there, but they're on the same street with Will, and his wife actually complained because she liked the diamond. Oh, well.
Just gonna buy her one.
by
Ah, there you go, a
little diamond.
little spotlight in the house. All right, so we'll come back to that unless somebody has something specific tonight. But I'll pass this out and make this available to everybody so that we can have further discussion next time. All right, Don, anything other than our small cell discussion?
This really isn't legal related, but since Chris was kind enough to give me a copy of your proposed budget then, since I was steering at hers, I was just curious whether it included any funds for any bike racks within the village. There was talk about it last year, but the mayor decided not to do it because there was no money in the budget.
Have we decided any good place for it to go?
Well, there'd be 4 of them were $1,600 is my recollection of what they were about $400 and something each.
So we'll take out the water fountain and there you
Sounds
go.
like this is very personal.
Yeah.
It's only because the people that needed berries on Tuesdays to run, when the weather starts getting better, there's a bunch of them that ride their bikes. And they have nowhere to put their bikes, and they ended up locking them against the fence around berries.
Would they like it in front of Mary's?
There or
There's not a lot
across
of
the
room
street
there.
or somewhere there.
There's no road there.
I had some spots
Probably
kind of
not.
marked out there where we could put, one was, I think, in front of what used to be the bay door, Terry's there now, if you're looking at their front door to the right,
Yeah.
the sidewalk's quite wide there, one could go there. There's one on Lapham, existing, and
You know, and the
I
thought
forgot,
was-
we had them laid out.
Up
where
down
we
by
could
the
go.
park.
Right, the thought was to put one down near Veterans Park.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, we had, I think it was 3 or 4 that were laid out that we had a spot for them, but I can revisit that.
Can we the water fountain change?
Yeah.
Well, I think if they ride their bike up there, they're gonna be thirsty, so we should.
Well, they don't want to come in here for it.
I think there was money put in this. There is money, it's in the 101-14-20-400, that line item. No. That's, yeah, down the line. No, we did mention it, it is a good idea, not just for them, but I think other people in the village, it's not just. So we'll have to find a spot for that.
Yep, maybe,
And you showed us a whole bunch of different ones, I just forgot where it ended. The mayor
Should
actually.
we choose one?
Jake had one that was green, the village color.
Yeah, I like
He had Village of Webster on
Yeah.
one side and something else on the other or
And
something.
then add a picture of, raising a mug.
Yeah.
Berries.
The raising the mud bike rack.
well, there are some interesting ones, when you look, they could be very specific to a
To the
spot. or-
establishment.
Yeah, you could have,
Jay, give me this stuff tomorrow, I'll sign off on it. When are you going away again?
There's a large lawn right here that the corner of could be
And I can tell you
a bike rack.
the person that was
Nice big lawn
that was
here.
pushing this, Missy Rosenberry, everybody knows Missy.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's moving into the village. So, if she'll be a village resident, then you'll really hear from her if she doesn't
Yeah, I
have a
guess
bike.
so.
Oh,
True.
Supposing she's buying a house on Fuller Island.
Yeah, she got that little green one there.
Fiscal decisions based on that, everybody wants, we'd be in trouble.
Yep.
Right?
So before the summer, she's gonna be living in the village.
Maybe she'll be the village voice.
Tell her to-
Yeah, maybe we'll swap the bike
Yeah.
for her
sounds
daughter.
like she will be if she
Show
was
up.
gonna bike ride.
We'll swap the bike rack for her charge for the village voice.
What's she charge?
It's like $200 a month, isn't it, for that?
What? Yeah.
The bike racks are a lot cheaper than that.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Like, I think it was around $400.
Yeah.
So we should where can we pull that now, because spring is,
Water fountain.
I'm done.
Well, cut off the water fountain and put the bike rack.
when we do that another year, they can continue to do it.
All right, consider it done. prices are probably totally different. Those racks aren't cheap.
Well, Jake he had it all laid out, and he had one of the,
It,
they looked nice and they weren't that expensive.
I thought it was a done deal.
Some of them can be really expensive, but the ones that.
The bid,
I think the bid should pay for it.
yes, the bid.
Well, that's an idea too, or at least go
Split it with us.
tell them to split it with the village.
The village-
at least.
The bid by him, the village install.
I'm going to their next meeting, I can bring it up.
You are?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
a lot happened today, Jerry.
not for nothing,
He's moving to the village.
A lot happened today.
Give him an extra $5 and look what he does.
It's so true.
But no, that's a good idea, is to ask the bid too.
The bid will pay for them, the village will install them, bolt them down so they stay there.
Daryl's taking over that.
Is there liability that's attached to it, something like that?
Well, we would have to.
Nah. What, if somebody hurts themselves locking their bike to a bike rack?
Yeah, you know, they step through the bike rack and break their ankle or something.
No different than
Oh.
they run in one of the
Out in
pods.
front of Barry's and
Nah.
Burke's down here, somebody's gonna trip over it, walking out.
No problem.
That's not the village's responsibility.
No.
All right, I like the idea of asking the bid, I'll ask, I'll pass that on to
Very good.
otherwise, we're looking at the waterfront. Great. Okay,
Take that.
Jake?
so cheap. I know we talked about it a couple meetings ago, I think, about the potential for some easements on Orchard Street. And I've been going back and forth, but I just forwarded them on to Don. This originally came up about 4 years ago, so, pending his approval and thing, if we could put it on the agenda next time to look at the easements for the Orchard Street. It's a storm sewer. We have a storm sewer in the road there. There's two properties side by side that are having a significant issue with water. There is an existing, what appears to be a lateral that goes back there. What we want to try to do, we can't work on private property. It's a weird spot for a lateral to be. So I just want to kind of clarify and if it's ours, give us a reason to work on it. And typically what we do in these, like we did on Fuller and different areas, if it serves more than one property, we have the property owners cover the costs of materials, and we can run a line in, and then that's just one, a solid line that we can maintain. We can be able to jet because it's a solid line. That only takes care of surface drainage, but we can leave provisions for them then to branch off and do French drains or curtain drains, whatever they want to do around their property, and have something else tied in. But there's quite a bit of flooding in these two properties, and they indicated that it's starting to impact their basement more than it did, which makes sense, it's ground saturated, especially some of the old stone foundations out there, their old houses, so. I don't know, I can't say that the line that's there, the lateral there is ours. Like I said, it's a weird spot for it to be. Private one, it's like a 6-inch line, and it appears to be, we haven't dug down and seen the line, but we did it from camera in the main. So just to clarify and make sure that it allows us, when it dries up in the spring or in the summer, at that point, be able to put that line through there. So I'll send them, forward them on, I think I forwarded them on to Don today, and it's basically just 5 foot each side of the lot line looking for easements from the property owner, so we can run just a straight line back, probably about 100 feet or so, or 120, and put in a drain and then some tees along the way, the material that they're going to cover.
So it's gonna dead end?
Yeah, we would just be basically like a lateral stub off of our main. They would go back to a small yard drain. And again, the yard drain's only gonna work when the ground's completely saturated and then the water runs into it. So it doesn't do a lot for basements, but that does allow them the opportunity then to have somewhere that they can tie into. And when we're putting it together, we leave T's in it and Y's that they can tap off of later on. Obviously they're capped, and then that's the homeowner responsibility. we would only maintain that main trunk, if you will.
And you just said you cambered that already?
We cambered our main, we had a
And
camera in
you
the
found,
main,
you found a,
where there's one tapped off, yeah, going that way. I don't see anything in our easements that indicates that we have an existing easement on those. Now, that house, one house was built in about 1900. At the beginning, the village, when we started doing stuff, they were by the opposite party's last name and didn't have any tax ID numbers. Very often didn't write an address because everybody knew where Silas lived and Isaac, and that's literally, there's one that's down in that area. I don't think it's those houses, but it says on that, where Silas Miller and Isaac Smith, where their properties come together. You look at the old maps in the hallway, and Miller and Smith owned about, that could be about 55 spots where their property lines came together in 1902 or 1912 or whatever it was. So this would make sure to clear up, there's any doubt here. We have the reason, and we have an agreement, and the reason to be in there and do this stuff. And, again, they would cover the cost of any materials that went into them. So. But I said, kind of look at it. Like I said, similar to the one we did on Fuller Avenue a few years ago. I'm trying to think if we did one in Clover that was the same way. I know we had discussed it. They're all, Justin in the backyards and things like that. So. And that, and this last thing is Cornell, I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago, sent out information about these hybrid oaks that the village could get, or they wanted to offer municipalities to be able to plant around an area, some kind of track. We would have to go down, what's it? It's just an oak tree. It's a hybrid oak tree. They're only going to charge $50 a piece for these trees. They're good-sized trees, about 32-inch root ball. They said they were going to have on them when they dig them. It's a $50 basically the digging and the bagging. It's 2.5, almost 3 feet. Good-sized tree. So we want to try to put those. Oaks can get huge, so we're talking about maybe in some of our parks, try to put these things, and especially if they're a new kind of hybrid. We don't know exactly how big they're gonna get, so it might behoove us to leave them more room than less room. So, but it'd be interesting to get, they said they're $50 a piece. I said, yeah, I expressed interest a few months back, so I talked to the gentleman from Brockport today who's also getting some, and I talked to a guy from the City of Rochester, the main arborist for the City of Rochester. I believe is a Webster resident, but talked about when they were, when we're going down to get them, try to coordinate it somehow, so that maybe we can go down there. If we're going down to get them, we can bring back some other ones, or we can split the, use our trailer and Rockport's truck or something like that. Or my hope was that the city was going down with a humongous truck that would have a lot of room if they could only get 5, but it didn't sound like that's going to happen. So, but it'd be interesting. We'll keep you updated, but I think it's a good way to get 5 trees and help out maybe, especially when some of these invasive species are coming around. You check the elm tree, the ash trees. Most recently, there's oak wilt that's coming around. There's the spotted lanternfly that's attacking different trees. There's a lot of different things. So if they're working on new species or new things that might be resistant to some of these things, it'd be nice to help in that effort and have them and let them come up and monitor them. That's as simple as it is. We have to plan them the way they said to plan them and make sure they're in a public area that they can access and come up and monitor the tree. So I think they're going to win. So especially $50 are normally $250 for a tree that size. So.
well, we budgeted $6,000 for tree planting, so even if you spent $50 a piece, you could get $500.
Well, they've had a pretty good response to it, so I think they were aiming for about 5 per municipality.
250 out of
Yeah.
6, that's fine.
Yeah, thanks. We'll keep you updated.
Tree sitting in USA, so we need to plant because we're taking some out, so.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's next Thursday too. There's no 31st of March, is there? Is there?
Yeah, it's next
ceremony there. See if I can make it. That's it.
All right,
You're ready.
very good. Anything else?
Oh, yes, sorry, real quick.
Yes.
I just had an update on, Mr. Frichette's wife regarding the insurance that we were paying for on accident. She found a cheaper insurance, that's about only $30 a month, so she will be off our plan April 1.
April 1.
Yes,
Good,
so that's all set.
thank you.
Good, good.
Yeah, about $5,000 savings.
Anything else?
I'm good.
All right.
There's
Then it is 8:10, and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Would mention that our next board meeting is March 28th at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming. See you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.